People like you don't even deserve to eat this food. Don't you feel any shame? If it were up to me, I'd beat you senseless. But I'm holding back because I refuse to become someone like you." The words rang out in the mess hall at Fort Irwin, a major military base in California's Mojave Desert. In a shocking moment during a high-profile visit, a tray of steaming food was dumped over the head of U.S. Senator William Harris. The incident happened so fast that everyone, soldiers, officers, and the YouTube livestream crew, stood frozen, watching as hot tofu stew poured down the senator's face. Rice stuck to his hair, and scrambled eggs splattered across his shoulders. What led to this explosive act at one of America's key military bases? Let's dive into the story. Before we begin, please hit like and subscribe to our channel. Your support is a huge boost for our storytelling. At Fort Irwin, the kitchen was already bustling before dawn, its lights cutting through the desert darkness. Cooks in thick aprons worked tirelessly, preparing meals for over 500 soldiers. Among them was Private Ethan Carter, a 21-year-old who stood out for his quiet demeanor. Unlike his chatty peers, Ethan spoke little, focusing solely on his tasks with a silent intensity. Today, he was hauling heavy rice sacks, rinsing grains, and loading them into industrial cookers. "Yo, Ethan, you're like a robot, man," Private First Class Jacob Miller, a fellow cook, teased. Ethan offered a faint smile but said nothing, returning to his work. Jacob, accustomed to Ethan's silence, shrugged and went back to chopping vegetables. Ethan's reserved nature had a deep root. A year ago, his father, David Carter, had taken his own life. David had run a small food supply business in Los Angeles for 20 years, providing fresh ingredients to schools and military bases. He believed food was a vessel for life, always insisting on quality and honesty. But that integrity became his downfall when Senator William Harris, a powerful figure in California politics, entered the picture. Harris, a senior member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, demanded David's cooperation in securing military supply contracts. It was a thinly veiled demand for a bribe, $50,000 to keep David's business alive. David refused, standing firm on his principles. But Harris's pressure grew relentless. Threats to revoke business licenses, aggressive IRS audits, and chilling hints that David's family, including Ethan, might not be safe. David's company was eventually blacklisted, and 20 years of hard work collapsed overnight. Crushed by despair, David ended his life. His suicide note read, "I tried to live honestly, but the world wouldn't let me." Ethan, clutching his father's cold hand at the hospital, was shattered. That moment haunted him, a wound that never healed. At the funeral, he vowed to make those responsible pay. But at 20, he was powerless against a senator with vast influence. So, Ethan enlisted in the army, seeking to forge himself into someone capable of justice. He buried his anger deep, letting it smolder beneath his stoic exterior. 3 months into his service, Ethan had become indispensable in the kitchen. His tireless work earned his superiors' trust, and he was a steady presence for newer recruits. Today seemed like any other. At 6 a.m., Ethan was slicing onions, the rhythmic chop echoing through the kitchen. The supply officer stepped in with news. "Senator William Harris will visit Fort Irwin tomorrow to boost troop morale. The event will be live-streamed on YouTube." Ethan's knife slipped, clattering onto the cutting board. His hands trembled. Harris, the man who destroyed his father, was coming here. "Yo, Ethan, you okay? You look like you saw a ghost," Jacob asked, concerned. Ethan shook his head, mumbling, "Just startled." But memories flooded back. His father's drunken mutterings about Harris, the name scrawled in the suicide note. His body prickled with goosebumps. Was this a cruel coincidence or fate's chance for justice? Ethan's mind raced as he worked. The anger he'd suppressed for a year roared to life. That evening, he climbed a hill behind the base, gazing at the star-studded desert sky. "Dad, he's coming here tomorrow. What should I do?" The wind offered no reply, but Ethan resolved to act carefully. To restore his father's honor, he couldn't let emotion cloud his judgment. Sleep evaded him that night. The thought of facing his father's tormentor left him restless. Could he stay calm? He wasn't sure. But one thing was certain, he couldn't let this opportunity pass. The next day, Fort Irwin was a hive of activity. Soldiers scrubbed every corner until the base gleamed, preparing for the senator's high-profile visit. From the commander to the lowliest private, everyone was on edge. Ethan arrived at the kitchen early, checking the menu: tofu stew, scrambled eggs, sauteed spinach, and freshly cooked rice. As always, the meal was prepared with care, but today, it felt like a silent tribute to his father's legacy. At 10 a.m., 2 black SUVs rolled through the base gates. Senator Harris emerged, exuding confidence in a tailored suit. His entourage, staffers, security, and a YouTube livestream crew followed closely. Base Commander Colonel James Reynolds greeted him with a firm handshake, posing for the cameras. To Ethan, watching from afar, Harris's smile was a facade, hiding the cold eyes that had haunted his family. "Let's start with a tour of the facilities," Harris announced, his voice booming. The live stream, already at 10,000 viewers, captured his every move. Comments poured in. "Thank you, Senator Harris, for supporting our troops." Ethan's jaw clenched, his fists tight. Harris visited barracks, training rooms, and the gym, playing the role of a caring leader. He shook hands, offered encouragement, and cracked jokes for the cameras. But when the lenses turned away, his demeanor shifted, curt, dismissive. Ethan, observing from a distance, saw the hypocrisy his father had endured. Near the end of the morning, Harris's group reached the kitchen. Ethan's heart pounded. This was the moment he'd both dreaded and awaited. "Our cooks prepare meals for 3,000 soldiers daily," Colonel Reynolds said as Harris stepped inside. The kitchen staff saluted in unison, Ethan among them. Harris's eyes scanned the room, pausing on Ethan. A flicker of recognition crossed his face, followed by a sly grin. "This young man looks dedicated. What's your name, soldier?" "Private Ethan Carter, sir." Ethan's voice wavered slightly. Harris approached, placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder for the cameras. "Soldiers like Private Carter make our nation proud." But as the cameras panned away, Harris leaned in, his voice a low hiss. "Keep smiling. Kid, you don't want to end up like your dad, do you? He couldn't handle the game, could he?" He smirked, then added loudly for nearby soldiers to hear. "Hope this food's better than the junk your family peddled." A few soldiers chuckled, unaware of the context, but Jacob shot Ethan a worried glance. Ethan's hands shook, his vision blurring with rage. He forced a salute, his smile rigid, but inside, he was screaming. Harris had mocked his father's memory in front of his comrades. The need for justice burned hotter than ever. After the group left, Ethan slumped against a counter, trembling. Jacob rushed over. "Ethan, what the hell was that? You okay?" Ethan muttered. "I'm fine." But his mind was ablaze. Harris's taunt had cut deeper than any knife. He vowed silently, "This ends today." Lunchtime arrived, a high-stakes event with Harris and his entourage dining in the mess hall alongside soldiers. The live stream now had 30,000 viewers, and the atmosphere was electric. Ethan was assigned to serve food, a role earned through his reliability. "Carter, today's critical. No mistakes," the head cook warned. Ethan nodded, but his thoughts were elsewhere. Behind the serving counter, ladle in hand, Ethan saw his father's reflection in the polished steel. David had lived to feed others, just as Ethan was doing now. As officers and Harris's group lined up, cameras rolled, capturing the heartwarming moment. "This is a meal prepared with care by our cooks. Enjoy," Colonel Reynolds said. Ethan served tofu stew mechanically, filling trays for the officers, who thanked him warmly. Then came Harris, grinning broadly for the cameras. "Let's see what Private Carter's serving up. This stew looks fantastic." Ethan scooped the stew, the hot liquid splashing into the tray with a hiss. He added eggs, spinach, and rice, his hands steady despite the fury inside. "Thank you, Private Carter. I'll enjoy this," Harris said, winking at the cameras. The chat exploded. "Senator Harris is so down to earth." But as Harris sat down, Ethan watched. The senator took a single bite for show, then pushed the tray aside, barely touching the food. His expression soured, as if the meal was beneath him. Ethan's anger surged. "Sir, not eating?" he asked, voice low but bold. Harris glanced around, ensuring the cameras were elsewhere. "This slop? A dog wouldn't touch it," he sneered. The words echoed the insults Harris had hurled at David's supplies, dismissing a lifetime of honest work. Ethan's grip on the ladle tightened. His father's voice rang in his ears. "Food carries the heart of the maker. Never disrespect it." Harris was trampling on that legacy. The mess hall noise faded, clinking dishes, officers' chatter, even Ethan's own heartbeat. He saw his father's face, worn and broken, in his final days. Food is life's vessel, David had said. Ethan couldn't let Harris defile that truth again. Ethan approached Harris's table, each step heavy with purpose. The senator, mid-conversation with officers, didn't notice until Ethan loomed over him. Harris looked up, a flash of alarm in his eyes. "What are you doing?" he stammered. Ethan didn't answer. He lifted Harris's tray, brimming with untouched stew, eggs, spinach, and rice, and upended it over the senator's head. Hot stew poured down Harris's face, soaking his suit. Rice clung to his hair. Red broth stained his white shirt, and egg fragments littered his shoulders. The tray clattered to the floor. The mess hall fell silent, every eye wide with shock. The cameras swung back, capturing the chaos. Harris sputtered, "You insane bastard!" as the live stream chat exploded. "Holy crap, what just happened?" Ethan stood calm, his voice steady. "You said a dog wouldn't eat it, sir." Officers rushed to Harris, who was red-faced with fury. "Arrest him, now!" Colonel Reynolds roared. Military police surged forward, cuffing Ethan. But he didn't resist. The live stream hit 100,000 viewers, with comments ranging from, "This is insane," to, "What did Harris say to set him off?" #FortIrwin incident trended on X, followed closely by #JusticeForDavid as snippets of Harris's dog comments spread. As Ethan was led away, he glanced at Harris, drenched and humiliated. For a moment, he saw his father's broken figure in Harris's place. "I did it, Dad," he whispered. Whatever came next, he'd struck a blow for justice. The base erupted in chaos. Harris, wiping stew from his face, raged at Colonel Reynolds. "How could this happen? Your soldiers are a disgrace." The live stream was cut, but the footage spread like wildfire across X, YouTube, and Reddit. The colonel apologized profusely, but Harris was unrelenting. "Court-martial that kid immediately. I'll have this base investigated." In the brig's small cell, Ethan sat quietly. Regret didn't cross his mind, only a strange relief. He'd unleashed a year's worth of pain, but he worried about his mother, Mary, who'd already lost her husband. A court-martial could mean years in military prison, and he dreaded the pain it would cause her. Online, the video went viral, amassing millions of views. Public opinion split. Some condemned Ethan's breach of discipline. Others fixated on Harris's dog comment. "What kind of senator insults soldiers' food like that?" one X post read, retweeted thousands of times. The #JusticeForDavid gained traction, though few yet knew Ethan's full story. Harris's team scrambled, holding a press conference in Washington, D.C. "This was an assault on democracy itself," Harris declared, demanding Ethan's prosecution, but the public wasn't convinced. The dog comment fueled outrage, and calls for Harris to explain grew louder. Protesters gathered outside his San Francisco office, chanting, "No more corruption." Talk shows on CNN and Fox News dissected the incident, with some hosts questioning Harris's history. At Fort Irwin, Ethan's squad mates were torn. Jacob, recalling Ethan's reluctance to discuss his father, sensed a deeper motive. "He's not the type to snap for nothing," he told others. Officers faced a dilemma. Harris's political clout was immense, but sympathy for Ethan spread among the ranks, especially after Harris's insult became public. 2 days later, Mary Carter visited Ethan in the brig. Her face, worn by grief, broke his heart. "Ethan, why, after losing your father, now this?" she asked, tears falling. Ethan took her hand. "I'm sorry, Mom, but I don't regret it. I did it for Dad." Mary hesitated, then pulled a small digital recorder from her purse. "I found this while sorting your father's things. Listen." Ethan's hands trembled as he pressed play. Amid static, his father's voice emerged, followed by Harris's unmistakable drawl. "David, business is tough, huh? Play ball, and I'll make it easy. 50 grand, and the contract's yours." David's voice was strained. "I don't have that kind of money, Senator." Harris laughed. "Then you're done. The IRS will be in touch. And your kid in the army? Bases can be dangerous." Ethan's blood ran cold. Harris hadn't just targeted his father. He'd threatened him, too. The 30-minute recording detailed Harris's corruption, bribes, threats, and contract rigging. "Mom, this could ruin him," Ethan said. Mary nodded, her eyes resolute. "We'll fight, Ethan, for your father." Just then, a woman entered the visiting room. "I'm Rachel Thompson, investigative reporter for the Los Angeles Times." She handed Ethan her card, her eyes sharp. "I'm covering your story. What can you tell me?" Ethan hesitated, then handed her the recorder. "Listen to this first." Rachel's face hardened as she listened. "When was this recorded?" "A week before my dad died," Ethan said. "Probably their last call." Rachel took furious notes as Ethan recounted his father's ordeal. The business, Harris's pressure, and the suicide. "I've been investigating Harris for months," Rachel said. "This is the break I needed." 3 days later, the Los Angeles Times published Rachel's bombshell. Senator William Harris drove businessman to suicide through extortion. The article, backed by the recording and financial records, went viral, but Rachel had more. A former Harris staffer, fearing the senator's downfall, provided emails confirming Harris's bribe demands. The evidence was airtight. Public outrage exploded. Protests swelled outside Harris's offices in San Francisco and Los Angeles, with signs reading, "Justice for David Carter." The hashtag #JusticeForDavid trended nationwide on X, with millions sharing Ethan's story. Petitions for his release gained 3 million signatures. Talk shows debated the scandal nightly, and Mary Carter appeared on a local news program, tearfully sharing David's story, rallying more support. The tide turned for Ethan. X-users hailed him as a hero. Private Carter took down a corrupt senator. Harris's press conference backfired. His denials crumbled under the recording and emails. The FBI launched an investigation, and Harris was arrested at Los Angeles International Airport while attempting to flee to Europe. At his court-martial, Ethan spoke with conviction. "This wasn't personal revenge. It was a response to stolen dignity, for my father and countless others crushed by corruption." 6 months later, the verdicts came. Harris was convicted of extortion, bribery, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice, sentenced to 6 years in federal prison. The judge called his actions a betrayal of public trust, costing an innocent life. Ethan's fate was unexpected. The military court, citing his motives, the staffer's testimony, and public support, issued a lenient ruling, a demotion but no prison time, allowing him to return to duty. A White House petition with 3 million signatures had swayed the decision. Back at Fort Irwin, Ethan was greeted as a legend. Soldiers clapped him on the back, and even officers nodded in respect. Jacob pulled him aside. "Man, I knew you had a reason. You're a damn hero." But Ethan had changed. The anger that once consumed him was gone, replaced by a new purpose. "I want to live for Dad's legacy," he told his mother. During his remaining service, Ethan worked with renewed meaning. Cooking was no longer just a job. It was a way to share care and love, just as his father had done. After his service, Ethan moved to Los Angeles and founded the David Carter Honest Meals Institute, a nonprofit dedicated to improving school lunches and ensuring transparent food supply chains. Starting alone, Ethan's passion drew allies, nutritionists, chefs, and philanthropists. "With integrity for the kids" was his motto. The Institute collaborated with schools to develop healthier menus and transparent supply chains, prioritizing delicious, nutritious meals for children. 2 years later, it partnered with 200 schools nationwide. Ethan often visited schools, eating with students. Their smiles reminded him of his father's words, "Food is life's vessel." One day, Ethan visited his father's grave in a quiet Los Angeles cemetery. As he tended the site, he shared his journey. "Dad, I'm living honorably now. I'm carrying on your work, for you and for others." A soft breeze rustled the grass, as if his father were saying, "Well done." Ethan was no longer a son consumed by vengeance. He'd become a beacon of hope, carrying his father's spirit to make the world better, one meal at a time. Strength lies in food and justice. Ethan fought for both, defending his father's name, his own honor, and the dignity of the powerless. Now, he builds a brighter future, serving hope with every plate. Thank you for listening to this story. If it moved you, please like and subscribe.